Thank you for joining us for this Wednesday's edition, this Wednesday's piece of our Holy Week study. Just as a reminder of what's happened so far, on Sunday, Palm Sunday, Jesus comes into town riding on a donkey, and everyone is praising him and worshiping him, and they all love Jesus. Jesus, as we read in Mark, goes to the temple, sees the temple, looks around, but then he leaves because it's late. On Monday, he returns to the temple. And when he returns to the temple, he finds that it's being misused. The temple is a house of prayer and it's a house of worship. And there's people buying and selling and taking advantage of each other. And because they're taking advantage, because they're buying and selling, because they're misusing the temple, Jesus overturns the tables, he throws the chairs, he kicks everyone out, and just cleans out his temple. On Tuesday, he returns to the temple. And when he returns to the temple, he's immediately stopped by the religious leaders. And the religious leaders ask him, by what authority is he doing these things? And Jesus answers them by asking them a question. But Jesus continues over the next few chapters in Matthew to talk to them, to discuss with those religious leaders about what is happening, to answer some questions that they have. He then takes his disciples to the Mount of Olives and gives them that same learning opportunity. And then he returns to Bethany, to the town of Bethany, where they're staying. Now, on Wednesday of Holy Week, we come to a time in the Holy Week calendar, the Holy Week schedule, when there isn't much said in Scripture about Wednesday. Scholars have speculated what happens on Wednesday. Scholars speculated that Jesus and his disciples rested and they prepared their hearts for Passover, for what is going to come tomorrow on Thursday. They also say that this is probably the time when Judas prepares to betray Jesus. Okay, so Judas takes this opportunity on Wednesday to prepare his part in what is to come. And his part is the betrayal. So that's what we're going to read today. We're going to read about Judas and his preparation for betrayal. So in Matthew chapter 26, verse 14 says this: Then one of the 12, one of the disciples, whose name was Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, "What will you give me if I deliver him over to you?" He's talking about Jesus here. And they paid him 30 pieces of silver. And from that moment, he, Judas, sought an opportunity to betray him. So Judas goes to the priest, to the chief priest. And he says, what will you give me? I'm willing. Just make me an offer. And they make him an offer, and he accepts the 30 pieces of silver to betray Jesus. And from that moment on, he's seeking that opportunity to betray Jesus. But what Judas does after that is he returns to the 12. He returns to Jesus to be with them, to seek that opportunity. And the really, really important piece to this, as we think about the next day, as we think about what happens on Thursday, and we'll read that tomorrow, is that Jesus is not oblivious to what Judas has done. Jesus knows that Judas has betrayed him. He already has done it. He's already received the silver. But Jesus still receives him back into the circle with him and the other 11 disciples. Jesus knows what's going on, but receives him back. And tomorrow, when we read about Passover and all the things that happened to the disciples, Judas is there. Jesus does not exclude him because of what he has decided to do in his heart. That's incredible to me. So as you listen to the instrumental of how deep the Father's love for us, and you read the words, think about that. Think about the fact that Jesus knows what has happened. Jesus knows what Judas has done. But he is still received back into the circle with Jesus. Listen and worship to how deep the Father's love for us. And thank you for tuning in.